Now, if you really fancy yourself a lovely stock Android experience like what you get with Google's Pixel phones, your best bet is to get a Pixel phone, obviously. But I've reviewed a fair few blowers with that clean, breezy, vanilla Android vibe. Big, small, cheap, not so cheap, even some bendy buggers if you're into a bit of all that. So here's my roundup of the best stock Android phones right now. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, it would be kind of weird not to start with Google's Pixel lineup, which has grown in 2024 to a selection of 5 different devices. Aye, there's now more Pixel phones than there are bloody Baldwin brothers. The most affordable of the selection is the Pixel 8a, which should tickle most people's fancy despite its more basic plastic design. And yeah, that's a bit of a downgrade compared with the snazzy all-glass finish of the Pixel 9 phones, but the Pixel 8a still looks smart and it's a proper pocket pleaser at just 6.1 inches. Unlike the prostate poppin' Pixel 9 Pro XL, or of course the bloody Fold. Try stuffing either of those into your pants and then walking down the street without it looking like you've had some sort of trouserial accident. And despite its shriveled stature, the battery life on the Pixel 8a is solid enough for all-day play. Just bear in mind that when it comes to charging, this phone is about as swift as a legless tortoise with a bag on its head. And while the 64MP Quad PD camera tech isn't quite as premium as the Pixel 9's, you still get Google's SmartOS image processing abilities, so your pics will look almost as good even in dodgy lighting, while Google has once again chucked on its excellent AI-based editing tools. Packed into that plastic frame is Google's Tensor G4 chipset from last year, which is just about powerful enough to cope with Genshin Impact on the highest graphics settings. It gets a wee bit hot under the collar at times, but nothing too troubling. And you've also got a stunning and supremely sharp 120Hz OLED screen and a respectable stereo speaker setup, which certainly does the job for a bit of gaming or some light Netflix relief. And yes, this may be the most affordable of Google's Pixely lineup right now, but Google is still offering a full 7 years of OS and security updates. Tasty stuff. So straight up, gotta say the Pixel 8a is one of my favourite mid-range smartphones right now, and certainly one of the best stock Android blowers that you can buy yourself. Now spend a wee bit more and you can upgrade to the Pixel 9 flagship phone. And this 6.3 incher is another hand-friendly mini marvel with skinnier bezels than the 8a, so it's not actually noticeably bigger. Although it does look quite a bit more like an iPhone, which is frankly distressing. The Pixel 9 Pro sticks with the compact 6.3 inch design of the regular vanilla Pixel 9, but if you want something enormous stashed in your shorts, and who doesn't, well, the Pixel 9 Pro XL is the beast for you at a whopping 6.8 inches. The Pixel 9 and its Pro siblings upgrade the display to a brighter panel with LTPO tech in the case of the Pros. You've also got a tough Gorilla Glass Victus 2 finish, which is sadly a bit smudgy, plus the brains of the operation is Google's fresher and more energy efficient Tensor G4. And this can just about handle the most stressful Android titles like Wuthering Waves. And thanks to that Tensor G4 upgrade and also the fact you've got bigger batteries stuffed into them, you'll find that the Pixel 9 series offers even better battery life than the Pixel 8a, so you'll comfortably make it through the longest, most arduous, most arse grinding of days. Although just like the Pixel 8a, that charging is anything but nippy. And all of the Pixel 9 phones are packed to the nipples with genuinely helpful AI bits, including an excellent new app that organizes your screenshot collection and can instantly yank out any important information when you need it. Although perhaps don't get too fond of the Gemini assistant, because if you really love the features like Gemini Live, well, you'll have to stop paying for them in a monthly subscription after your first year. Ugh. As for the optics, well, the Pixel 9, 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL all serve up the same main camera tech. A 50MP Octo-PD shooter, which is proper slick for everyday photography. You've also got a 48MP Quad PD ultra-wide snapper, although only the Pro pair delivers a third telephoto camera for getting up close and personal, and only those Pros boast a high-res mode as well as a bit of RAW capture. And the regular Pixel 9 also misses out on a few other nifty camera features, including a bit of video boost action, which can clean up your crappy looking low light footage. You've also got a more basic selfie camera, but honestly the differences are fairly negligible. But anyway, I have already done a full in-depth Pixel 9 versus 9 Pro versus 9 Pro XL comparison side-by-side video. If you're really struggling to tell which one is best for you. And that's not all, because Google has also spaffed out a new bendy blower, the not at all succinctly titled Pixel 9 Pro Fold. And the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is a slightly confusing handset, as if things weren't already baffling enough with the Pixel 9s, because it's not just a bendy version of the Pixel 9 Pro. Sure, you've got the same Tensor G4 performance, the same AI type shenanigans, etc. But the Fold's cover screen isn't LTPO tech, while the camera hardware is also completely different, from the 48MP primary sensor to the more basic telephoto shooter with a 3x optical zoom. Although hey, you've still got that dependable Google processing and a slew of photo editing features to get stuck right into. And if you fancy yourself a big old screen for multitasking, well, the Pixel 9 Pro Fold does not disappoint with its proper huge 8-inch monster lurking within. And if you want to know more, well, I've not only done you a full Pixel 9 Pro Fold review, but I've also compared it side by side with Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 6, so you can see how it stacks up against one of its biggest rivals. Otherwise, if you're not quite swayed by a Pixel for whatever reason, but you still fancy yourself a compact handset like the Pixel 8a, well, definitely don't sleep on the Asus Zenfone 10. This sub 6-inch smartphone is proper wee, even dinkier than the Pixel 8a, but with the same super slick stock Android experience. Although you've also got the option of switching to Asus's own Zen UI, which adds a few extra bonus features on top. But don't judge the Zenfone 10 on its size, because that top-notch hand feel and effortless one-handed action is just the cherry on the huge f***off ice cream sundae. This is a flagship blower through and through, no questions at all, packing Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset for proper beefcake performance, as well as absolutely ruzzy incredible battery life, among the very best in this roundup. However, definitely don't expect the same level of software support that you would get from Google for one of its Pixel blowers, because with the Zenfone 10, Asus is only promising 2 OS updates and 3 years of security updates. And the camera tech isn't quite as good either, struggling in more taxing conditions. But if you're absolutely sick of enormous oversized blowers, and you want something a bit more hand-friendly without sacrificing that clean Android experience, well, the Zenfone 10 is a bloody solid choice. And sadly, we are still waiting for Asus to pull its finger out and finally launch a Zenfone 11. And so far, all we've had is a Zenfone 11 Ultra, a considerably massiver smartphone compared with the Zenfone 10. Massiver, absolutely not a word, but I'm rolling with it like a pro. And sadly, the Zenfone 11 Ultra is a bit trouser, considering the steep asking price. So the only things ultra about it are the size of the bloody thing and that price tag. If you see it massively discounted, it might be worth a punt, but otherwise I wouldn't bother. Another quite jazzy alternative is Colpay's Nothing Phone 2, which sports the most talked about rear end since Beyonce. Yeah, all the headlines are focused on that flashing disco bollocks known as the glyph lighting. It's basically just a glorified notifications light. But when you dive down beneath that literally flashy service, you'll find a worthy Pixel rival. You can choose between a stock Android vibe or that funkified nothing dot matrix theming, but either way it's a light and breezy experience. The Nothing Phone 2 is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which is getting on a bit, but still powerful enough to keep things running smoothly, even when you're gaming. Battery life's pretty decent too, despite all of the arsehole light show shenanigans. And in fact, that glyph disco lighting has been redesigned from the original Nothing Phone, with even more zones than before, as well as some nifty new features. The display is a beaut, and the camera is good enough for your everyday photography shenanigans, if not quite up to the standards set by those pixels. But bear in mind, the Nothing Phone 2 is also a 6.7-inch slab, comparable in size to the likes of the iPhone bloody Pro Max shenanigans, so you'll certainly need pretty sizable pockets to contain it. And if you're tempted, I actually just smashed out a full 6-month review, so go check that out. And if your stacks aren't quite fat enough for the Nothing Phone 2, well, no worries, you can still get yourself a bit of flashy light glyph action with this more budget-friendly blower. The Nothing Phone 2a is yet another 6.7-inch big boy, this time with a placky back, a slimmed down glyph lighting setup, and specs that aren't quite as impressive. But MediaTek's custom Dimensity 7200 Pro chipset is still meaty enough for everything up to and including mashing Gribblies in the face in Genshin Impact. While that battery life is pretty solid once again too. Definitely give my video a squint for all you need to know. And then just to make things slightly more awkward, there's also the Nothing Phone 2a Plus, which is basically the same phone but slightly more beefy. Not really sure why it's even a thing, as the regular Phone 2a is already quite meaty in the performance department, but hey-ho.
Now, Motorola is another manufacturer who sticks with a tasty bit of stock Android on all of its smartphones, and its latest Billy Big Bollocks flagship to hit the UK is this here Motorola Edge 50 Ultra. It's another almighty 6.7 incher, but that slender curved design makes this motor feel more compact, and it's pleasingly light to boot, complete with either a trouser-rousing soft touch rear or a funky wood design. Cause who doesn't enjoy having a good bit of wood in their hand? That 144Hz POLED panel is bright and poppy and pleasingly crisp, while the stereo speakers pack quite a punch too. And there's also somehow space in this slender chassis for a mighty 4500 mAh capacity battery, which supports 125 watt wired charging and 50 watt wireless charging. Frankly smacks the tits off those Google and Samsung blowers. The Moto Edge 50 Ultra's 50 meg main camera is backed by a decent telephoto zoom lens for getting closer to the action, so photography fans are sorted. And the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 can happily handle anything you hoy at it, including plenty of head bopping action in Genshin Impact. And the Motorola Edge 50 Ultra boasts a pretty clean stock version of Android naturally, otherwise it wouldn't be here in this roundup, complete with a few tasty Moto morsels chucked on top, including an improved gaming mode, bonus security tools, yada yada yada. However, it does have to be said that Motorola isn't quite as reliable as Google and some other rivals when it comes to the actual software updates. You got 3 years of guaranteed OS upgrades here, then that's your whack, and those security patches can be a wee bit sporadic, shall we say.
Alternatively, there's always the Motorola Edge 50 Fusion, a considerably more affordable stock Android blower that boasts the same slick software setup and a similar light and skinny design with some bright and spangly colour options. The 6.7 inch screen is another crisp 144Hz POLED panel, and you've once again got a decent stereo speaker setup, plus this time an even bigger 5000 mAh battery. And yeah, it doesn't charge up as fast, but hey, it's still a bit of a speed demon compared with some of its rivals, like those pixely morphos. And you've also got yourself a 50 meg Sony Lightyear camera setup that's actually kinda decent for the price, with the usual caveat that low light photography sucks harder than a toothless granny attacking a Werther's original. So overall, pretty good option if you're on a bit of a budget. And if you found you're a wee bit baffled by the sheer volume of Pixel smartphones on offer, well, Motorola is definitely going for Google's confusion crown because it's launched yet another Edge blower, the Motorola Edge 50 Neo. And this is a wee bit more expensive than the Fusion, but it does offer a dinkier 6.4 inch form factor. You've also got a bonus telephoto lens, you've got the Mentally 7300 performance, and I'm hoping to do a full-on unboxing and gropey type video soon, so you can check out that for all you need to know. Alternatively, if you're partial to a bit of bendy blower action and you've got a fair bit of spare cash stuffed away in the mattress, you might find yourself more enamored with Motorola's rather charming RAZR 50 pair. These compact flippy phones are hot competition for Samsung's Galaxy Z Flip 6, especially as they boast that stock Android experience. Both the RAZR 50 and that Ultra model serve up a wangin' great AMOLED cover screen with either 90 or 165Hz refresh, convenient for quickly fiddling about in any of your apps, or simply replying to messages without going to all that effort of actually unfolding the bugger. You can even watch a full movie on it if you're a bit mental. But if you do decide to put your thumb through the grueling exercise of flipping the RAZR open, well, your peepers will be delighted at the sight of the bright and poppy 6.9 inch OLED display lurking within. While the sound's also pretty good thanks to the decent stereo speaker setup. You've got the same sleek stock Android experience that you've got on all the other phones that I've banged on about so far in this roundup, with a few bonus extras chucked in to make full use of that cover screen, including some fun wee time wasters which are surprisingly addictive. That battery life is actually decent for a foldable as long as you're not too demanding, and the RAZR 50 Ultra is particularly beefy if you can afford that upgrade with a Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 stuffed inside of that dinky frame. And the cameras are actually pretty decent for a bendy phone and a Motorola. You even get a telephoto zoom portrait shooter on the Ultra model, which is ideal for snapping kids, cats, etc. But hey, if you don't have the available funds for any of these Motorola blowers, well, maybe try out their cheapy Moto G85 instead. Despite its budget-friendly price tag, the G85 is still a proper stunner with its snazzy soft-touch leather-style arse and near bezel-less front end. Again, that POLED screen is a proper eye-pleaser, maxing out at 120Hz, and it's backed by stereo speakers for a merry old Netflix session. You've got a big old 5000 mAh battery, so no worries about searching about for one of those bloody plug points halfway through the day, although the charging speeds are just as tediously slow as those pixels. And it is disappointing that the Snapdragon 6S Gen 3 is in charge, so this phone ain't gonna delight any gamers out there, while the camera app is also pretty slow to respond at times. But still, the Motorola G85's camera tech is another one of those Sony lightier buggers. So again, pretty decent for your everyday home snaps and some simple home movie type affair. So basically, look past the limited software support and the Moto G85 is solid value with a lovely bit of stock Android vibe to boot. And last up, if you are on an extremely tight budget but you do love a bit of stock Android action, well, you might be highly tempted by HMD Global's latest lineup. HMD are best known for spaffing out Nokia branded phones, but their freshest blows are self-branded and generally very bloody affordable. And did I miss out your own personal favourite stock Android blower? Well, definitely clue me in as to what a massive bellend I am down in the comments below. Please do plug, subscribe and ding that notifications bell while you're down there for more on the latest and greatest tech. Don't forget full unboxings, reviews and all kinds of video type shenanigans on all of these phones, what I've been wibbling on about right here on TechSpert. Now, all that remains to say is have yourselves a bloody wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!